Hello everybody, this is Dr. Foxen, reporting back in for another reading. Today I'm going to be reading UnLonden's Best Part 2. Remember, if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comment section down below. And if you have any questions so far, please feel free to ask. And I have a question for you all today, 2 of them in fact, for a little fun. Tell me, how was your day today, and tell me what your favorite sandwich is. Anyway, let's get right into it. Twilight turned and looked at the figure, the creature, his intimidating form. She immediately noticed many different things. The weapon he carried. It was obviously a bludgeon. It seemed to be something that maybe a cop would use. She had remembered seeing old history about this place far across the waters, far away from Equestria, a different government. She also knew about a different factor, seeing the badge that was assigned on his chest, on the uniform. What she assumed was a uniform anyway. She could tell it was probably a cop, a police officer. What she could tell in the cap that he wore showed a symbol of authority, a symbol of somebody who was strong, independent, free-willed, but at the same time was a protector, a defender. She was still afraid regardless, but maybe this thing was alright. She'd have to get its name, whatever it was. But then she remembered that it got hit with a spear and tore it out as if it was nothing. But before any words can be exchanged, the thing holstered its baton and turned to them. Hello there. Hello there, citizens. It's good to see that you are unhurt. Are any of you hurt at all, actually? The 3 little fillies that he had knelt down to and said, "What about you, citizens? Are you young citizens okay?" They nodded their heads, saying, We're fine, mister," said a small one with a small little hat. He looked at her, and looked at the rest of them. They were different. He rubbed his eyes and then saw, wait, never mind. It wasn't a hat. He was just... his eyesight was messed up. His eyes were dilating. It's odd. This didn't usually happen. Now that he could see a little bit more clearer from turning as the sun was evading his vision, he had seen that it was a small bow, which looked rather cute, in his opinion, of course. He didn't know what to think of it regardless, though. These were a bunch of small little sentient ponies. He'd remembered what a pony was whenever he had read books before the black incident, the blur, the jump, the gap in his mind. Before he could ramble any further in the depths of his mind, he said, "Well, regardless, citizen, it is good to see that you are unharmed and unscathed. You are unscraped. You should return to your guardians." They nodded and returned. He then stood there for a few seconds. Before hearing one of them speak up. "Now, partner, I'd like to thank you for saved my sister there. Really appreciate it. I'd like to know your name. He stared at her and said, I don't have a name. At least, I can't remember. Just call me by the police slang term I seem to be called a lot. Just call me Bobby. She and the other elements raised their eyebrows. They were a little confused by the notion, but they accepted it. But they were going to press on a little further after. They were confused. They were lost, stuck. They didn't know how to approach this being. Then Twilight, of course, knowing her, stepped in and said, Well, what are you? I am a police officer of UnLonden, or more commonly known as a Bobby. I protect UnLonden, the streets, and eventually UnLonden will rise phoenix-like from the ashes of torn earth, and rise up once again. However, I'm unsure if that is my destiny now, as I am unsure where UnLonden is. However, I have found my new purpose. I will protect this village. It is all I know. Twilight then said, Well, Mr. Bobby, would you like to accompany me back to my library? He looks at her and says, Well, Miss Twilight, or citizen, I would love to accompany you, but I must proceed with my patrol. Well, besides, do you possess a certain stance? I beg your pardon, Mr. Bobby? I'm saying to you, what is your level of authority? Then Rainbow Dash steps in, flying right on in, kicking her hooves in the air, saying, Well, she's the one and only Princess of Friendship. He then looks at her, and can tell he had seen all the other ponies. Most of them didn't. Some had wings, and some had horns, some had neither. But she had both. And he could tell, the way she carried herself, her stance, that she was indeed a higher level of authority than he was. He walked towards her, which got them anxious, before kneeling down and bowing his head in front of her, which took her off guard, surprised her. This was happening fast. He said, My princess, you are my new level of authority. I bow my head to you. I am willing to fight, die, and protect you to the end, or to a new beginning. Till dawn and till dust, till the fire crackles until the fire fades. I will fight for you. He looks up and says, I will die in the dark so you can live in the light. I am here to serve. She looks at him and says, Why are you saying any of this? Well, the reason I'm saying this is because I have only ever learned how to defend, protect, and serve for the largest portions of my life. You do not need to worry, my queen. I am here, or my princess. I am here to service you, and only you. Okay then. Well, I guess follow me. As you wish. He follows her to the library, and the other elements accompany. Pinky jumping right next to him, saying, "Why are you wearing all that dark clothes? There's no color." He then slightly peeks an eye to his right and says, I wear the clothes as a uniform. I am to service. And if I am to die servicing, then that is what I will do." She continues jumping and says, "But that's not very happy. That's very sad. And why are you covering your face? I want to see that smile, smile, smile," she says while bouncing. He says, "I do not think you would like to see me underneath. It is complicated, to say the least." Bobby wasn't exactly sure if he was hallucinating about him actually being made of actual body parts and he just wasn't jumbled up flesh. I mean, sure, he could be imagining everything, but everything felt so real. He could just be actually imagining that he was whole, that he was skin, and not just jumbled up flesh slammed together with small screws and little gears. The thought depressed him, but he did not care. He pushed on, like he always did. When his brethren had fallen, when UnLonden's condition was questionable, when the topside had fallen, well, he questioned the topside falling every day, but he knew when his brethren had fallen around him, when they had died so easily, he knew that he knew before anything else could happen. The door to the library had been pushed open by Twilight. "Come on in, I can't wait." As he walked in, he stood. Spike had came over and said, "Hey, Twilight. I made tea for you just like you asked when you said you were going to come back." And he stopped, dead in his tracks, staring at this giant creature. He then looked at it, and then thought about Rarity and Twilight being in danger. He breathed fire out of his nose and said, "You stay away from Twilight, you!" as he charged. Immediately his instincts kicked in. He grabbed his whistle, pulled it to his mouth. "Don't even think about it, criminal!" as he quickly yanked out his baton before anything could happen. As he rushed forward to swing, he was enveloped in a magical aura that was purple, and so was Spike, and they were stopped. She says, "Bobby, what are you doing? And Spike, why are you trying to attack him? Look at him, Twilight. He's a monster." She says, "Enough, Spike. Just head up to your room." And then she teleported Spike up to his room before anything else could happen, and cast a barrier on the door so he couldn't get out. And then she turned and looked at him and said, "What was that about? Why did you try to attack him?" He looks and says, "It is a matter of instinct. I can't control it. When someone threatens the safety of a citizen, or opposes the force of authority, I am to act as for UnLonden's sake." "You're not in UnLonden. You're in Ponyville, in Equestria." "Then I am to act on Equestria's sake, for the sake of Ponyville and its citizens and their interest." Well, anyway, just, how about this? Get some rest, and we'll talk about more of this in the morning. As you wish. They realized it was probably a bad idea, but to leave him there. But they went out and went to sleep as Bobby had laid his head in the guest room pillow. He drifted off to a dreamless, empty sleep, as many of the others. Awakening, he'd gotten up and walked outside and began his patrol. And many of the Ponyville citizens had looked at him. They had heard about his heroic actions, but they were still kind of scared and a little suspicious. As he continued walking, he had seen a odd sight. A mint green unicorn was right next to him, walking beside him, and said, "Oh my God, I knew you were real. I knew it. I told them, but they didn't believe me." He looks down and says, "Citizen, are you okay? You seem distressed. Is it some form? Do you have some form of screamer syndrome?" She says, "What? No. I told them that humans were real." "Well, of course humans are real. I'm right here," he says, rolling his eyes slightly. "Well, yeah, anyway, stay right here. I'm gonna go grab Bonbon." She runs off. He does not listen. Bobby has more important things to attend to. The safety of Ponyville depends on him and him alone. He continues walking. After a bit, Rarity looks out her window from the Carousel Boutique and notices Bobby walking. She then opens her door and waves to him. Seeing her, knowing that she has a certain level of importance, as Twilight had explained to him about the celestial beings and the elements of harmony and such in the main six. She had walked up and said, "Miss Rarity, how may I assist you?" "Oh, well," her cheeks had flushed. She'd always had a certain, thing for stallions this wasn't a stallion, but still, stallions of high class. Seeing as how he's more of a older era type, and also how he carries himself and the fact that he's of a certain level of authority, kind of, and how strong he is, she of course developed feelings, and she did certainly have the hots for him. After what felt like a few minutes, before she could say anything, he had suddenly sprinted in a certain direction. Rarity was of course confused, saying, "Darling, where are you going? Come back." As she began trotting, not galloping, of course, she didn't want to ruin her mane, but began trotting after him. Once he had gotten to the scene, Roseluck was cowering. She was cowering on her knees. Or, I don't know. Wait, do ponies have knees? What the fuck? Anyway, sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to talk about your riding like that, but anyway, sorry. But she began cowering on her knees, staring up at the demon dog in front of her. He didn't even blow his whistle. He ran at this thing, this wolf made of timber, and had jumped, wrenching out the baton and smacking it, which caused 7 of the jagged teeth in its mouth to dislodge, and it let out a small yipe of pain as it backed away. Before it could advance on him, he advanced on it slamming its baton into its face, and whenever it tried to do a jump, it kicked. He kicked him straight back down and began hitting him over and over.